All right, breathe. Best episode yet. All right, welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today let's talk about the best episode to date of Game of Thrones. What episode is this? Episode 9 of Season 6, titled Battle of the Bastards. Man, holy shit. I mean, from everything from the script writing to the acting to the choreography, cinematography, everything. The score. Holy shit, for an episode. To get everything perfect on a TV show. If this isn't the one, I don't know what is. I mean, wow. Just wow. And a lot of this, too, isn't just if you're watching it for the first time, obviously who the hell would watch it for the first time? But a lot of this was payoff over seasons, and I think that was probably the most rewarding. Because again, what I talked about previously in other reviews, when you're writing, you gotta give the fans, the viewers, you gotta give them rewards. If you're constantly giving them other things but rewards, even though it's good writing, it will fall. It will crumble. And this episode was just one reward after the next for the fans, for the viewers. Oh man. And to start it off, let's go with the terms of surrender. Now I'm going to look at my notes a little bit here. Sometimes I try to edit that out, but I do not, especially with this episode, I don't want to miss anything. So first off, we're going to talk about the terms of surrender. This was great because we as the audience were in the same position as the slave masters. They're the masters. We both thought for a second, even though I thought, much like most of you, they were going to do something sneaky. The Mother of Dragons and Tyrion and everyone, they were going to do something sneaky. The Unsullied were going to attack or something. But the masters, like us, were thinking they were surrendering. The other side was surrendering. And then they pulled the rug out from under us. I thought they were going to attack in some clever way, and they did technically. But when Daenerys was like, listen, we're here for your surrender, I was like, well played, well played. And then you cue the dragons. Dragons show up. They take her off and they start burning the boats, but they burn the one. We see the one, and I've always jumped to point out how quickly an epic battle on Game of Thrones ends, because they do this in seasons. You have your one big battle, but they'll do this where they will really play up something. Like with the Mother of Dragons, she's come to a couple spots where it was going to be a big battle, it seemed like, and we might see something from the outside or a little fight from the inside, and then the city was taken over, and we don't see like this big epic battle. So I'll be the first to point that shit out, but the way they did it now was perfection, because they got the Masters ships, they took out the Masters, and on top of that, the writing with picking one out of the three for the Masters to live, and the other two, basically giving up the lowborn, they called him, and then when he kneels and the Grey Worm cuts the other two throats, like everything there I felt like was written to perfection. And then you have Tyrion coming over. It was like it was like a musical piece. Everything hit its note. Grey Worm cuts their throats, and then Tyrion comes over and he tells them, listen, anyone decides to rise up, remind them of what happened in Meereen. Remind them of the shit that you saw today. I loved it. And then on top of that, you get Theon and his sister coming and adding to her ships, the Mother Dragons, adding to her shipyard. This shit is really pushing her story to somewhere I feel like, as well as many of you, probably feels like it's going to be the major storyline for the next season. And I think I love that. I think that's probably the most exciting. Even though we're watching it now in season 6, we know, like, this is for season 7. Even though we're getting a little taste now, a huge chunk is in season 7. I think that is great. So let me look at my notes. Okay, so the dragons, everything, even getting the slaves to flee, as well as everything else in that scene, was just beautiful. All right, so perfect. With that beginning, okay? With that beginning in Meereen, that was great. And then the boats, everything tied up, I feel. I feel like we don't even need to touch base with them again. I am happy with everything that's going on over there. Now moving on to Jon Snow and Ramsay. This shit, holy fuck. Talk about perfection. Now, they get their first meeting, and again, Ramsay, he validates himself as an epic villain. And he bitches out, which makes you hate him even more, because he's all cocky with Jon, and Jon's straight up like, you know what? Thousands of people don't gotta die. We can end this now, me and you. And Ramsay bitches out, but he says what we're thinking, as fans, as viewers. He's like, no, this guy's good. This guy's good. And then he bitches out, which makes us hate that fucker. But we have a feeling that's gonna come back into play. And it does. It does just wonderfully. Now, you get all this tension before the battle, and I think they really capitalized on that because, and I don't know if you guys felt this as well, but I thought like there was going to be a sneak attack. The entire time, my anxiety was just through the roof, afraid there was going to be a sneak attack and some shit was going to happen. Little did I know, the sneak attack wasn't happening, but an ass kicking was coming. Because then the coming battle comes the next day, and they bring out Rickon. And I felt bad for this kid, but it's the same strength. We have to understand, when Ramsay has Rickon running straight ahead, we have to understand, we don't fight with bows and arrows in our time. And I know we got movies and TV and all that shit, but even I didn't grow up around bows and arrows. You know what I mean? I know what they are. I've shot some. I've seen people shot. I know people who shoot them. I know people who go hunt with them, as weapons or whatever. I know what they are. But back in those days, they used them. Or not. I shouldn't say back in those days because this is fantasy, but I'm saying if you compare it to medieval times, they use that shit. So they probably are well aware that if you were running away from somebody with a bow and arrow, you need to run in some kind of zigzag pattern. So as soon as Rickon was running straight, I immediately was just so stressed out at that point with all the tension. I'm like, just shoot the fucker, If you're that stupid and you grew up in a time where you should be smarter than that, you deserve to die. But it was still sad the way they played it, and they played it well. And again, this was well written and well directed, and the way they edited it together, it was just perfection. It was everything, all the little spices coming together, making a tasty dish. Because you have him running, and then you get Ramsay shooting the arrow, and you think, no, this is the one that's gonna get him, and it doesn't. But then you're thinking, oh, okay, they might be doing something. Oh, shit, no, they're not doing something else because they just shot him, It's just fucking great. After that, after he kills Rickon, and then we go to the battle. Now, the battle moves like a musical number. You have regular film speed, you have music, then you have no music, which is like, the absence of music. You have the sound effects. You have sound effects that are playing with the slow motion or, whatever it is. You have fast cuts, you have slow cuts, you have long scenes, short scenes. Everything's played out, with a certain pacing. And it was just perfection, because then you got all the action that's happening in this fight. And it was like, I remember growing up, Braveheart was, champion when it came to two sides fighting on opposite ends of the battlefield. Braveheart was just champion. They had people running, colliding. It was just it was awesome with the way they did their practical effects, where people were getting access to the chest, to the face, blood flying everywhere. The camera was cutting in and out of this battle that felt real. Game of Thrones topped that years later today, where Jon Snow, obviously, he's on the ground, he mans up, he's alone. You have this entire cavalry coming on a horse. They're charging at his ass. He pulls up his sword in kind of like a last hurrah. This is the last man standing, but he's not going to be standing for long. And then his backup, where he didn't even know was coming already, takes out the enemy. So, and this isn't the first time this happens. happens. This happens again too, and with the misdirect, they make it seem like Tommen might actually die. Thorman. I don't know what the fuck I said. Alright, I fucked that up. So Jon Snow's group comes behind him. Then the battle starts, and we see arrows. And the producers and writers and directors, they talk about this later, afterwards, and they talk about how Jon Snow he's skilled, but it is also some luck, where he ducks and arrows start hitting the ground around him. He gets up and he's looking around. There's people coming in and out. He goes to hit this guy, but a horse takes that guy out. Then he spins around, dodges something, and then he takes out one guy who's coming after him. And the guy flies off a horse. I mean, the way that was choreographed and then how it continued, I think it was only 5 minutes, but it felt like 50. It felt like I was, for the first time, probably ever, I felt like I could get a realistic look at the craziness, how the chaos that erupts on a battlefield like that, with arrows incoming, and you have no idea when they're going to hit, when they're going to land, who they're going to hit when they come. That battle was great. I think this is probably one of the best battles that take place in like a medieval time, because that's what I'm going to relate it to, ever on film. And again, Braveheart definitely was up there. I think probably the champion until now, unless I'm forgetting some shit. Gladiator was king for some shit. Braveheart was badass, and I'm probably forgetting some more modern movies, but Game of Thrones is champion now. After this episode, that battlefield scene where you got my anxiety through the frickin' roof when they were just taking pounding after pounding after pounding, and then you got the shields coming up. You have the piles of bodies that were just like a wall themselves, and the producers talked about how that was taken from actual notes from the battlefield of the Civil War in America, where the bodies were piled so high it was like an obstruction themselves. So there's a wall behind them, then there's like a horseshoe of shields, and they keep doing that rah rah, and they're moving in and then stabbing. It felt like, and then Jon's getting knocked down. And again, this is what another scene where Jon mans up to fight, but he gets knocked down, and then he's getting like there's a stampede on top of him, and I felt like I was out of breath with him. They did an excellent job. Now, for a moment there, it got kind of muddled. So much cuts, and it felt like I was getting lost, and that's something that is difficult to do, because you want to get us claustrophobic, you want to get us to feel like we're being crushed also with Jon, but also you don't want to lose us in all the quick cuts. And I felt like that was probably one of the weakest moments, where it was borderline losing us, but at the same time it was also giving us that feeling of being trampled and out of breath. And then when he comes up for breath, and you have that mass, mob of soldiers just pushed into this, condensed into this little area, it was glorious. And then Sansa with, I don't even want to talk about the fucker. I'm so pissed that he showed up and helped, because I hate this fucker. So Peter, fuck him. Peter Baelish shows up, let's say Sansa, let's say she's the hero here. I don't know how those forces got here when they did, but all I know is that was just epic. And now I don't know if she sent out 2 letters or if she spoke. I don't know how that worked out. All I know is, I loved it. I loved it. Because this is another thing they did so wonderful, where they had us hoping, just hoping there was going to be some kind of relief. And I thought it was Edmure, maybe. I thought maybe since Blackfish was gone, Edmure and them, they got the note, the letters, that's still lingering. I thought they were going to come over the hill and start helping. But then when Jon was being crushed and they were all being compacted and Jon came up for air, I thought there's a chance that some other shit was going to pop off. Maybe they wouldn't die, but they wouldn't lose. So I was really worried that, I'm at the edge of my seat now. I am freaking out. And then all of a sudden, Sansa and Peter come over the hill with their cavalry, their backup, And I was like, fuck, I can breathe again. Like John, I'm catching my breath. It was great. It doesn't even end there, because even afterwards you get the giant. The giant is a fucking hero, man. To the last minute where he takes that spear in the hand and he just tears it out and he busts through that door. That was like his last. He gave his life for this shit. Like, literally. And then he starts getting shot with all the arrows. He falls down, and you have that moment. You have Thorman there, you have Jon there, and then you have the giant there. And Jon's looking at him. You know, you get this this look like Jon is seeing a hero that has, at this moment, already given his life for the cause. And the last thing to do is just to die on the battlefield. Like, this is the moment where he is dying. Like, he earned his respect. Even an enemy, any enemy, would give him that respect and let him just die on the battlefield. But fucking no. Because the greatest villain of all time, possibly, shoots him in the fucking eye. And this is the giant, where again, like, Jon is witnessing him dying. Like, it's on the battlefield. So much respect to the giant as a huge hero in this battle. And what is the biggest piece of shit in the whole kingdom here? What does he do? He shoots him in the eye, and then he wants to fight Jon. Now, here's the thing, where Jon's fight right now between Ramsay was a little underwhelming, but I completely understand it, because once he starts beating his ass, punching the shit out of his face, he sees Sansa and he realizes that this is not for him to finish. Not at all. Sansa has been, brutalized, tormented, abused like crazy by this man, and I feel like Jon is like, you know what? That's for her to decide, And that's why later he tells her where Ramsay's at. She goes and releases the dogs in probably one of the best full circle moments for a villain ever, for a character ever. Because keep in mind, this season alone, and this started a couple seasons ago, but this season alone, we witnessed him sick the dogs on his, stepmother slash brother, half brother, and that was after he betrayed and murdered his father. Then he lured her in there and had the dogs eat her up. That coming full circle now, with Sansa releasing the dogs and him being all cocky up till the end, thinking he could probably get out of this, and then the dogs eating his face. Oh, that is a reward to the fans, for putting up with his shit for so long. And again, the actor too, even though I hate the character, the actual person that the character is, I love the character. The way the actor did it. I think he was a fantastic villain. I think he was great, and it was very rewarding watching him die in that way. So what we got, the giant is a hero, Ramsay's an ultimate villain, the rewarding, we get the hounds, full circle, and then Sansa's smile as she's leaving. This girl has come a long way. In the first season, wasn't she talking about how she wants to be a princess? At Winterfell, she was talking about that in season 1. And then now look at her, she's walking away after releasing hounds on this piece of shit, and he's being eaten alive. And she has this little smile as if she's home. She won that battle. She was being tormented. She doesn't have to worry about this guy, his army. It's over. At least this victory has been won. There's more to come, but for right now, she can just appreciate this moment. Fuck, I loved it. Tell me what you guys think. This was extra long. I do apologize, but I'm only going to edit out just a tiny bit, and I'm uploading it long. I apologize. It's like 19 minutes. Anyway, thoughts and opinions on, in my opinion, my all-time favorite Game of Thrones episode. Let me know what you guys think. Put those thoughts and opinions down in the comment box. Holy shit. Holy shit. And there's something else real quick. I feel like with Game of Thrones and a couple other TV shows, just a few, I'm starting to notice a pattern that I really hope starts to take hold as the norm for TV shows. I really feel like the second to last episode of a season should be kind of like a finale. And the last episode, the season finale, should be a partial finale, but a setup for what's coming in the next season. And I do know TV shows do that, but I'm hoping they do it in riskier ways, But we'll see what's coming up, because I get this feeling with Game of Thrones that they're doing it in a very risky way, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm not talking about crazy, ridiculous cliffhangers, but we'll see what's coming. I love it. I love it. Thoughts and opinions in that comment box. Thanks for watching this whole video, if you made it this far. Shit, yeah. I'm done talking. I gotta go. It's your turn. Subscribe now.